There is something no one tells you about being a sensitive person. You don't just feel your own emotions, you feel the room. You feel the tension in someone's voice before they finish the sentence. You feel the shift in someone's mood before they even speak. You carry other people's stress home with you, in your body, in your chest, in the quiet moments when you're finally alone and still can't seem to let go. And then there are the moments you replay. A comment someone made 3 weeks ago that they've completely forgotten. A look someone gave you that probably meant nothing. A conversation that ended strangely, that you've been turning over in your mind ever since. They've moved on. You're still there, still replaying, still trying to understand something that was never meant to be understood. And you wonder, why does everything affect me so much? Why can't I just not let it get to me? I want to offer you something today. Not a technique, not a list of things to try. Something older than that. Buddhist philosophy has understood this kind of exhaustion for 2,500 years. And what it discovered, what monks have lived and tested and passed down across centuries, is that the problem is not that you feel too much. The problem is something much smaller and much more fixable. In this video, I'm going to walk you through 5 Buddhist teachings on equanimity, the art of remaining steady when the world around you refuses to be. Not numb, not cold, not detached in a way that costs you your humanity, but genuinely, deeply, undisturbed. The kind of calm that doesn't break under pressure. The kind of peace that doesn't require the world to cooperate. It begins with a boat on a river. A monk was meditating alone on a river in a small wooden boat, eyes closed, in complete stillness. After some time, he felt a bump. Another boat had drifted into his. His first instinct was irritation. His peace had been interrupted. Someone had been careless, thoughtless, inconsiderate. He opened his eyes, ready to say something, and he saw that the other boat was empty, just an unmanned vessel that had drifted downstream and found its way to him. And in that moment, every trace of irritation dissolved. There was no one to be angry at, no intention to be offended by. No story to construct, just a boat and a river and the morning. He closed his eyes again. Later, he said this to his students: "All the suffering I have ever experienced in my life came from the same mistake, believing there was a person steering the boat that hit me. When I looked closely enough at the person who criticized me, who betrayed me, who disappointed me, I found that they too were an empty boat, drifting on the current of their own conditioning, their own wounds, their own unexamined fears. They were not choosing to disturb me. They were simply moving the only way they knew how." The moment I understood this, he said, I stopped waiting for the world to become careful with me, and I started finding a steadiness that the world could not take away. That steadiness, that is what we are building today. The first teaching begins with a word, Upekkha. In Pali, the language of the earliest Buddhist texts, Upekkha is translated as equanimity, but the translation loses something essential, because most people hear equanimity and think detachment, distance, not caring. That is not what it means. Upekkha is not the absence of feeling. It is the presence of stability beneath the feeling. Think of it this way. A tree in a storm does not stop being a tree. Its branches move, its leaves shake. The storm is real, and the tree is genuinely in it. But the roots do not move. Upekkha is the roots. It is the part of you that can feel the grief, the frustration, the hurt, and still not be swept away by it. That can be present in the difficulty without being consumed by it. You are not trying to stop feeling. You are not trying to build walls. You are trying to grow roots deep enough that the storms can come and you can remain. This is the foundation that everything else is built on. The problem is not that you feel too much. The problem is that your roots haven't been tended. The second teaching is the one most people resist, because it requires honesty. In Buddhist philosophy, there is a principle that says, what disturbs you most is always a reflection of something within you. Not a judgment, not a blame, a map. When someone's words cut deeper than they should, that depth is pointing to something. When a particular kind of criticism makes you spiral, the spiral is information. When one specific type of person consistently gets under your skin, pay attention. The world around you is a mirror, and everything that makes you react strongly is the mirror trying to show you something you haven't fully looked at yet. This is not the same as saying the other person did nothing wrong. The man who bumped the monk's boat may have been careless. That may be true. But the monk's anger was not about the boat. It was about his own expectation that the river should be undisturbed, that peace should go uninterrupted, that the world should cooperate with his meditation. The moment he saw this, the anger lost its fuel. So when something disturbs you today, instead of asking, why did they do that? Try asking, what does my reaction tell me about what I'm still carrying? The answer will be more useful than anything the other person could say. The third teaching is perhaps the most practical, and the one Buddhist philosophy shares most clearly with the Stoic tradition. There is a clear line between what is yours and what is not. What is yours? Your response, your attention, your interpretation, your next action. What is not yours? Other people's words, moods, choices, opinions, the past, the future, the weather, the news, the market, the traffic, what someone said about you behind your back. Most of our suffering lives in the space between these two categories, in the energy we spend trying to control what was never ours to control. Imagine carrying a bucket of water everywhere you go, and every time someone else spills something, you rush to use your water to clean it up. By the end of the day, your bucket is empty, and you haven't even touched the things that were actually your responsibility. This is what happens when we spend our emotional energy on what cannot be controlled. The practice is radical and simple. Before you react, ask one question: is this mine? Their mood, not mine. Their opinion of me, not mine. Their choices, not mine. My response to all of it? Mine. Entirely. Only mine. You will be surprised how much lighter you become when you stop carrying what was never yours to carry. The fourth teaching is one you've heard before, but perhaps never felt the weight of. Between every trigger and every reaction, there is a moment. A fraction of a second sometimes. A breath. A heartbeat. Buddhist practice calls this moment the gap, and it is the most important real estate in your entire inner life. Because in that gap, you are free. Before the gap, the trigger happens, and that is not in your control. After the gap, the reaction has already begun, and momentum carries it forward. But in the gap itself, you can choose. Not perfectly, not always, but more and more with practice. The technique is almost embarrassingly simple. When you feel the disturbance rising, name it. Not to yourself, not out loud, just internally, quietly. Anger, hurt, fear. Neuroscience now confirms what Buddhist monks discovered 2,500 years ago. The act of naming an emotion reduces its intensity by up to 50% because it activates the prefrontal cortex, the thinking brain, and creates just enough separation between you and the feeling. You are not the anger. You are the one who noticed the anger. That noticing, that tiny, quiet act of witnessing, is the pause. And the pause is where your freedom lives. The fifth teaching is the one that ties all the others together, and it is perhaps the most beautiful image in all of Buddhist philosophy. Imagine a lake. On the surface, it is responsive to everything. The wind creates waves, rain makes patterns, a stone makes ripples, a bird landing creates its own small disturbance. The surface of the lake is alive, it moves, it reacts. It is genuinely affected by what touches it. But go deeper, 10 feet, 20 feet, and none of that surface activity matters. Down there, the water is still, completely, profoundly still. The storm raging on the surface is completely irrelevant to the silence at the bottom. You are built like this lake. There is a surface of you, the part that hears the criticism and stings, that replays the conversation, that tightens with anxiety when the world becomes uncertain. This is real, it is part of you, and it is allowed to move. But there is also a depth of you, a place beneath the reactivity, beneath the noise, where something is always, already, completely still. Monks do not train to eliminate the surface. They train to remember the depth, to know that no matter what is happening above, down here, in the roots, in the still water, there is something in them that has never been disturbed and cannot be. You have this too. You always have. You've just been living on the surface for so long that you've forgotten there is anything below it. 5 teachings. Upekkha, the roots beneath the storm. The mirror, what disturbs you is a map. The boundary, carry only what is yours. The pause, where your freedom lives. The lake, the depth that cannot be moved. Here is where to begin, not with a meditation retreat, not with a complete transformation of your inner life. Begin today with one moment, the moment when something triggers you, and instead of reacting immediately, you ask one quiet question. Is this mine? If it isn't, set it down. Not forever, not with force, just for now. If it is, name it. Hurt, fear, disappointment. Just the word, one breath. Then decide, from the depth, not the surface, how you want to respond. You will not get this right every time. Neither did the monks. The practice is not perfection. The practice is returning, again and again and again, to the question, am I in the depths right now, or am I on the surface? The lake doesn't need to calm the storm. It simply needs to remember how deep it goes. Nothing that comes from outside of you has the power to reach the depth of you, unless you let it. And now that you've felt that depth, even for a moment, you'll know where to return when the surface gets loud. If this video found you at the right time, subscribe, because next week I want to talk about the one thing Buddhist philosophy says is the root of almost all human suffering. Not anger, not fear, something quieter, something most people carry their whole lives without ever naming it. Drop a comment below. Which of the 5 teachings landed deepest for you today? I read every single one.